Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Tel Aviv. Coming up in today's newscast, a historic event takes place at the Western Wall. The BDS movement targets Oscar nominees, and an Israeli startup promises to make parking your car a breeze. I'm Natasha Kirchak here with the latest news in Israel. For the first time ever, a mixed-gender prayer service was held today at the Western Wall. Dozens of Reform rabbis from all over the world took part in the landmark service, which is being hailed as a breakthrough for religious pluralism.
The Israeli government recently announced that the Western Wall will have an official area for egalitarian prayer. Today's the first time that goal became a reality, and men and women came together to pray and read the day's Torah portion. They also recited a special blessing that's traditionally said to celebrate something new. The government's planning to establish a platform for non-Orthodox prayer at the southern end of the Western Wall. The main plaza will be formally designated as a place for Orthodox worship. This means there's going to be a lot of obvious changes at the Western Wall, and the Women of the Wall organization won't be able to continue praying in the traditional women's section. The Reform movement is praising the development and pledges to continue pushing for a more pluralistic and tolerant reality in Israel.
This year's Oscar nominees are receiving a special prize in their gift bags, and it's all thanks to the Israeli government. Yet the gift has a BDS movement up in arms, and the group is protesting with a full-page advertisement in the LA Times.
The Israeli Tourism Ministry says Oscar-nominated celebrities will receive a free trip to Israel in their gift bags, which are worth $55,000. The trip will be offered to the directors, lead, and supporting actors who are nominated for awards this year. In response, the BDS movement has put out a full-page ad in the LA Times to convince celebs to reject the offer, which will be given to them at the Academy Award ceremony this Sunday.
To prove it, you will see movie stars here, you will see famous athletes here, you will see the big names from all around the world coming to Israel because we're part of the international community. That there is a serious objection to accepting such a trip, and that in fact they're playing a very significant role for the Israeli government, which is really trying to sell a fairy tale to its people.
The free 10-day trip to Israel is partly funded by the Israeli government. It aims to show celebs what the Jewish state is really like, to help combat the negative image of the country that's often shown in the media. Israeli Tourism Minister Yariv Levin says Israel wants the most senior people in the film industry to visit the Jewish state because they have a lot of influence on public opinion. He's hoping they'll post photos on social media for their fans after experiencing Israel firsthand. It's too early to tell if anyone will make the trip, but a number of Oscar winners have supported Israel in the past. Creed supporting actor Sylvester Stallone signed a pro-Israel petition during the 2012 Gaza war, and Oscar nominee Leonardo DiCaprio visited Israel when he was dating Israeli supermodel Bar Rafaeli.
Israel has been against lifting sanctions on Iran from the start, and now it looks like the Jewish nation has even more reason to worry. Iran is pledging to give cash rewards to Palestinian terrorists that attack Israel, and Israeli leaders are outraged.
The Iranian ambassador to Lebanon says Iran will pay thousands of dollars to the families of terrorists who are killed while carrying out attacks against Israelis. Ambassador Mohammed Fateh Ali says Iran will give $7,000 to the families of terrorists, which he calls martyrs of the Intifada in occupied Jerusalem. He says they'll also give $30,000 to terrorists' families whose homes are destroyed by Israel. The Israeli government is slamming the announcement, saying it's just another example of Iran's aggression towards the Jewish state. Israel has repeatedly warned that lifting sanctions on Iran would give the state billions of dollars that could be used to back terrorism. Hamas officials recently traveled to Iran to discuss further financial backing with the Iranian government. The Israeli ambassador to the UN, Dani Danon, is demanding the United Nations to condemn Iran's announcement, saying the UN must stop Iran's funding of terrorism if it wants to bring peace to the region.
As a female, I'm always excited to hear about other successful women who are contributing to the world with their unique talents. When I heard about Avital Handler, I couldn't help but invite her to the studio. She happens to be the first and only woman to play the tuba professionally in Israel, and she's also one of the very few female tuba soloists in the world. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for inviting me.
So, you know, the tuba doesn't necessarily have as sexy of a reputation as other instruments out there, like the guitar, for example. So how did you start playing this instrument?
Well, I played the piano, and I was born and raised in Israel. And we were looking for another instrument for me to play. My parents are not musicians. They took me to a concert called Tubby the Tuba. And in this concert, the poor tuba is basically doesn't have any solos and doesn't have anything that it can be proud of, and then it gets taught a beautiful song. And I always feel sorry for people, or for instruments, obviously, that don't get solos, and I said, I want to play the tuba. And they said in Israel, of course, at the time, girls don't play tuba. And when people tell me that I can't do something, I usually want to do it. And so I said, I really want to play the tuba. And then again, they said to me, well, we don't think you can do it. Play the baritone, which is like a baby tuba. So I played the baritone for a year, and I insisted on playing the tuba. So everyone said, fine, play the tuba, but you won't succeed. And then, you know, I went to, I managed to play it well. My sister played the flute. She would send me to the end of the yard to practice my tuba. And slowly but surely, I started getting better. I went to a musical high school, and then I was accepted to the IDF, which is the Israel Defense Forces Army Band. And then I got a full scholarship for Boston University in the States and Manhattan School of Music. And during my second degree, I auditioned for the Israel Symphony Orchestra Rishon LeZion, and won my job. They let me finish my degree, and I was back here at age 25 playing the tuba professionally.
And that's huge. The tuba actually is the biggest brass instrument out there, correct?
Right. It's the biggest one, but it's also the baby. It's it's like the youngest. It was only invented 1836. But it is definitely the biggest.
Yeah, it's heavy and it's very deep. The sound is, it's a very strong bass, correct?
It's a strong bass. This is actually the smallest version of my tubas. It's my baby tuba. It's my solo tuba. I have a tuba that's a little bit bigger for solo orchestral stuff, and then I have my huge big tuba, which I play with big orchestral pieces.
So what was it like to be a child growing up playing this instrument that not a lot of people really know about?
It was always my dream to make the tuba more center stage. And growing up, I basically got the oompa oompa in the band. And in the Army band, you get a more principal part. And in the orchestra, once you're playing the tuba with orchestral pieces like Bruckner or Mahler, then the tuba becomes more important and more dominant. However, it is still considered stereotypically an instrument that does oompa oompa. Therefore, I decided to release a CD. I released a CD about a year ago, and it's called Tuba in the City. It can be found on iTunes, on Amazon, on cdbaby.com. It has not only classical tunes, but tunes that anyone can relate to. It has The Swan. It has songs like Everyone Wants Simple Songs. I think you have that YouTube video. Right. And it also has classical music. It's basically, I produced this disc so everyone from my mother till a grandmother and till a young person can always listen to this disc and enjoy it.
Absolutely. And I actually understand that you were chosen to represent a big brass instrument manufacturer. Can you tell us about that?
Yes. Actually, with great honor, I got chosen to be a Canstool performing artist. This company is based in Los Angeles, and I was there in the summertime. I managed to meet the company owners through my colleague, John and Beth. They're both tuba players, Canstool performing artists. And I showed them my disc, and we talked, and we decided, hey, I could do this in Israel, represent Canstool in Israel and in Europe, and with great honor, I do it. And that's this tuba sitting here. It's a Canstool F tuba.
So I know that you've actually performed in the past with a lot of big Israeli performers here. And so where can we see you performing now?
Well, at the moment, of course, I'm playing with my orchestra. That's the Israel Symphony Orchestra Rishon LeZion. I also formed with another tuba player in Israel, Chai Mazar, the Israel Tuba Duo, which we're performing all over Israel. In June, I was invited to the International Tuba and Euphonium Conference, which it's a great honor because I'll be the only Israeli, maybe the only or maybe another person will be there, but probably the only female Israeli playing at this conference, and it's a great honor. It'll be in Tennessee. I would love to see any Americans come say hi. We saw you on the news channel there. And all over Israel, I try to get the tuba to the front of the stage with children concerts and also adult concerts as much as I can.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming in. Before we end this interview, I would love to hear a little something on this beautiful instrument. It looks massive, and you must be extremely strong to be able to carry this around.
And I just concluded a tour in Israel with my international tuba duo. It's called Tuba Chic. It's
Tuba Chic.
And it's my other colleague, a female tuba player from the States, and we decided to form this tuba duo that will perform also internationally. All right, so I'm going to play you the tune from Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Nice. Such a deep, rich sound. It must be amazing to see you live. I know you told me you have a couple of kids. You have 4 kids, right?
I have 4
so they
kids,
must
yes.
love hearing you perform at home, you know?
Well, actually, it's really quite funny because I practice when they're asleep. So it's they sleep through my practicing. It's like they're used to it from the womb to have a tuba in the
Well, it's a beautiful sound to be used to.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Lately, there's been a lot of speculation that Hamas is rebuilding underground tunnels from Gaza to Israel. The Israeli Prime Minister is reassuring citizens that the IDF is tackling the threat, and he promises he won't allow tunnels to be built again.
Netanyahu says the IDF is working to find an imminent solution to the Gaza tunnel problem. He claims the army is already using the latest technology to address the threat, and that they even have a special budget for the job. Israel has spent more than $250 million since 2004 to stop the tunneling, and the Prime Minister says he won't let the tunnels spread. Netanyahu is meeting with leaders of the Israeli communities near Gaza to reassure them that the IDF is taking care of the problem. The head of the Eshkol Regional Council, Gadi Yarkoni, says he's impressed with the Prime Minister's resolve. All of this comes after Israeli residents living near Gaza complained that they heard digging and voices under their houses. The IDF says it destroyed more than 30 Hamas tunnels during Operation Protective Edge, and the Israeli government has consistently promised to keep Hamas from rebuilding.
Healthcare is one of the biggest concerns for people all over the world, and it's become a major issue in Russia. The Russian government says a growing number of its citizens can't afford medical treatment. But there's some good news. It looks like an Israeli startup might have an answer to the problem.
The Russian government recently released statistics showing that healthcare is increasingly inaccessible in Russia, especially in rural locations. Russia says its doctors are overworked, which is compromising patient healthcare and leading to increased mortality rates. The Israeli startup Archimedics is trying to solve the problem, and it's teaming up with Russia's largest internet company to help Russians find affordable healthcare abroad. Archimedics CEO Moni Milchman says about 50 million people travel every year to new locations for healthcare. He says his company wants to enable them to make the best possible decision about their medical treatments. So how do they plan to do it? Milchman claims his startup provides users with information about which hospitals around the world are the best for their specific needs, and helps tailor results according to filters like budget, time, and language. The startup uses data mining to sort through information from the Health Information Management Systems Society, which is the world's biggest nonprofit organization. The company is partnering with the Russian group Mail.ru, who is helping publicize information to Russian citizens so that they can make life-saving choices.
There's nothing worse than coming home after a long day of work and not being able to find a parking spot. Well, an Israeli company is on a mission to make your parking worries a thing of the past, with a new app that helps you find the closest available parking spot.
An Israeli startup has just won an International Innovation Award for its app Anagog, which helps users find parking, track down their car, and even keep an eye on their kids. The CEO of Anagog says the app uses crowdsourcing to make all of that possible, meaning users upload real-time data to help each other find parking. Anagog works like the traffic app Waze, but it focuses on parking instead of directions. It uses location data and mapping technology to track down where there are open parking spaces. It can even predict when a user will be leaving their parking spot, so they can figure out when one will open up. If you're wondering how Anagog keeps users from swarming one spot, don't worry. The app has thought of that too. It runs an algorithm that balances between the closest drivers and those who have been waiting the longest, before leading them to a spot. And if you've forgotten where you've parked your car, the technology is also here to the rescue. It's smart enough to remember your vehicle's location and then give you step-by-step directions as to how to find it. The Israeli startup is really onto something and has already released other apps using the same technology. Its new Baby Minder app keeps track of when a user is leaving their car, so that it can remind them to check the backseat for their baby.
And now for our Hebrew word of the day. All of this talk about parking brings us to the word nag, which means driver in Hebrew. Nag comes from the verb linhog, meaning to drive. Israelis are known for being crazy drivers, and that's not far from the truth. It's not unusual to hear Israelis screaming, "Ize nag mishuga," or "what a crazy driver," when they're on the road. Nag can be used to describe practically any kind of driver, no matter what kind of vehicle they're driving. Parking is a real nightmare in Tel Aviv, and a lot of people take the bus instead. Israelis call bus drivers nag, and if you take a bus in Tel Aviv, you'll probably hear someone yell nag to get the driver's attention. So if you're on the bus in Israel and your driver forgets to open the door at your stop, don't panic. Just yell nag in his direction. You'll not only get what you need, but you'll also sound like a true Israeli. Let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. The weekend is finally here, and be prepared for perfect beach weather. Friday is expected to be sunny with a high of 75 degrees. Saturday should be partly cloudy, and the temperature will go down to 69. All right, everybody, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.9 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at ILTV.tv, and don't forget to check out our evening update every night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tonight.